All of that begins tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. with a look at the day's news, your emails, and your phone calls. Washington Journal live each day, right here, 7 a.m. Eastern on C-SPAN. Live coverage now of the U.S. House.
From the Committee on Rules for filing under the rule. The clerk will report the rule or the title.
Report to accompany House Resolution 587, resolution providing for consideration of the bill H.R. 2087 to remove restrictions from a parcel of land situated in the Atlantic District, Accomack County, Virginia.
This is referred to the House calendar and ordered printed. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, proceedings will resume on the motion to suspend the rules previously postponed. The unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Smith, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 3992, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 282, H.R. 3992, a bill to allow otherwise eligible Israeli nationals to receive E-2 non-immigrant visas if similarly situated United States nationals are eligible for similar non-immigrant status in Israel.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote.
So as this vote gets underway here on the floor of the House, we'll show you something that took place earlier this afternoon at the Capitol, a press conference with House Republican freshman members. They talked about legislation that aims to repeal the Medicare Independent Payment Advisory Board that created under the Obama administration's Affordable Care Act. The House Energy and Commerce Committee, along with the House Ways and Means Subcommittee on Health, has already approved that bill that would eliminate the 15-person board charged with recommending spending cuts to Medicare. The U.S. House expected to take up that legislation by the end of this month. So let's take you now and show you that news conference as we watch this vote take place.
Thank you all so much for joining us here today. We wanted to talk a little bit about Medicare and the Independent Payment Advisory Board. I wanted to start out by pointing out a couple quotes I've got here. First, I have a quote of President Obama. Quote, "If you look at the numbers, Medicare in particular will run out of money, and we will not be able to sustain that program no matter how much taxes go up." I mean, it's just not an option for us to sit by and do nothing. And I think we have another quote here. Senator Lieberman. Bottom line, Medicare is hurtling toward its demise. Our government is approaching a cataclysmic fiscal tipping point while Washington is busy posturing for the next election. We ought to be able to all agree that Medicare has to be reformed to save it. We ought to be able to do that. We've come up with reforms here in the House. Our budget, I'm sure that we're about to vote on soon, will have Medicare reforms in it. We've seen a bipartisan Medicare reform with the Ryan Wyden Medicare reform. And we can debate which reforms are best and how we need to proceed in that area. But what we can't do is simply cut without changing the way Medicare works. That's not reform. And that's what the IPAB, the Independent Payment Advisory Board that's in the President's health care plan, does. It basically says we're not going to reform Medicare. We're not going to change Medicare to save it. We're not going to change the internal workings of Medicare so that it provides more services for less money. We're not going to do any of that. What we're going to do with the IPAB is leave Medicare exactly as it is, and when it starts to run out of money, have an unelected board of bureaucrats start cutting or rationing, depending on how you define it, care. And the end result in that scenario is you will have more and more seniors who can't find doctors that take Medicare. Medicare reimbursement's already significantly below what the private sector provides. And it's going to be even worse if IPAB kicks in. So what the President has said basically with IPAB is, I know we need to reform Medicare, but I don't want to do it. I'll just create this entity, this board, to cut. And we are trying to reverse that here in the House. We're obviously working on legislation to do that. And there are a lot of folks on the other side who are interested, Democrats who are interested in reversing and killing IPAB as well. Representative Elmers.
Thank you, Tim. Renee Elmers, 2nd District of North Carolina. I'm here as one of my fellow freshmen, and I'm also a nurse. I've been in health care for many, many years. My husband is a general surgeon, so this is obviously an issue that we are very, very familiar with. What this bill will do is actually serve two purposes. One, it does repeal the Independent Advisory Board, which is basically 15 individuals who will be making decisions for Medicare. What decisions will they be? They'll be what Medicare will and will not pay for. So as a senior goes to receive care, they may or may not be able to receive it depending on what that board decides. So there is large bipartisan support to repeal IPAB, and I think that's an essential piece. The other part, rather than just repealing something, we have to be replacing as well, and that's what we have dedicated ourselves to. And we've said over and over again that it can't just be repealing, but we got to reform. So the other essential piece here is reform of frivolous malpractice lawsuits. Basically, we've said all along that one of the ways that we can improve upon health care is by putting this piece in place. There are estimates of $50 billion a year and up that says that we will save money in health care if we're able to reform malpractice lawsuits. Why? Because physicians practice defensive medicine every day. They order numerous tests because of the fear of lawsuit. Now, we're not talking about leaving anyone unable to be protected in the event that a malpractice lawsuit were to move forward and there were to be true malpractice. What this does is this limits those lawsuits that come forward simply without merit and the cost that physicians and hospitals have to face every day because of it. I am very much in favor of this bill. I think that it is an essential piece. And then, of course, moving forward with hopeful repeal of Obamacare itself. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Sandy Adams, Florida's 24th District. About 2 years ago, we heard the infamous words from then Speaker Pelosi, we have to pass a bill to know what's in it. Americans across the country were watching, and now they know what's in it. 2 years later, they're finding out. This IPAB board, the board that decides between your care, not you, not your doctor, the board. Bureaucrats who answer to no one but themselves get to decide what your health care will be. Not you, your family, and your doctor, bureaucrats. He also said this would create jobs. It didn't. She also said it would lower cost. It didn't. She also said we could keep our own plans and our own doctors if we wanted it. And you can't. I'm here to tell you that meeting with our business owners throughout the district, I was talking to Rick and Brenda Brown, who own several franchises, and they were telling me about the cost to cover their employees now, and the fact that it's going up, not down, and the fear that they have that they won't be able to cover their employees. This is a problem that the American people are facing. It was caused by this bill that was passed without anyone knowing what was in it, as per then Speaker Pelosi's own words. Pass the bill, then find out what's in it. Well, the American people have found out what's in it, and they don't like it. And it's time that we start repealing this piece of legislation. IPAB is one part of it. Let's get the bureaucrats out of our health care. Let's get government out of our health care. Let's make the decisions between a doctor, their patients, and their family. Thank you.
Hello. Congressman Scott Desjardins, Tennessee 4. I don't think that anyone sitting out here today can argue that Medicare is in trouble. We know Medicare is going broke. You can look at a number of different sources to see what number you like. 10 years is a pretty good average. AARP knows this. We know this. And I can say this is not a Republican problem. It's not a Democratic problem. This is a people problem. So for everyone who has parents or grandparents on Medicare, you should be very afraid of this IPAB bill. We set forth as a responsible means of fixing Medicare in the Ryan budget. We all know, we can agree on the facts that Medicare is going broke. We have a plan in place that will start to correct and preserve and protect Medicare for future generations in the Ryan plan. But instead, we're villainized for that. We're accused of literally pushing grandmother off the cliff. And clearly, that is the kind of demagoguery we don't need when we're trying to take care of our seniors' need and access for care. IPAB was brought to the forefront by my good friend and fellow physician and colleague from Tennessee, Dr. Phil Rowe. And as several of my colleagues have stated, this is a board of bureaucrats that's designed to put a Washington bureaucrat between the patient and their doctor. That's not what any of our seniors want, and it is tasked with helping gut $500 billion from the Medicare program. And this is going to take place in the form of rationing of care. They can say that it isn't, but it is. It's going to take somebody who's in need of a test and have a board decide whether or not that test is appropriate. That's not the direction we want to see Medicare going. So repealing this IPAB is extremely important, and it's been a bipartisan effort here in the House, and I really hope that we can move in the right direction and get this legislation passed and protect our seniors now and in the future in terms of their access to care. Representative Nunley.
I'm Alan Nunley from Mississippi 1. About this time last year, the House of Representatives passed a budget, and in that budget we laid out a framework for future debate and discussion on how to deal with our enormous national debt and the Medicare problem that's driving a large portion of that debt. When we passed that budget, the result was the other side didn't want to discuss the issue. They just made commercials of Chairman Ryan pushing seniors off a cliff. Well, over the next 2 weeks, I hope we're going to be able to continue to have discussions. Those who only want to deal with sound bites and demagogue the issue have not put forth a reasonable alternative, nor have they put forth a reasonable defense of the status quo. Right now, the status quo is cutting $500 billion from Medicare beneficiaries. $500 billion of payment for health care that will result in rationing, that will result in patients not getting the care they need. The status quo will also result in an unelected group of bureaucrats making decisions for health care for people in North Mississippi. I don't think either of those things are good. So I'm hopeful that we can continue this meaningful discussion on reform of the Medicare program while we will protect existing recipients. We will also make sure that the program is there for their grandchildren. And then we will also repeal this unelected group of bureaucrats that stand between patients and their doctors.
Thank you all for being here today. My name is Randy Hultgren, Congressman from Illinois 14. It's 2 years from this Friday is when the health care bill first passed. And it's absolutely true. Now we do know, as Nancy Pelosi said, we know what's in the bill. And there is so much in there not to like. One of the greatest things that I have a very serious problem with is the IPAB board. Unelected bureaucrats deciding the care that our seniors will have access to. We can tell from how this is written that it will absolutely limit access to care. And it really limits it on two fronts. One is the board can decide what type of treatment can be given. The other that isn't spoken about so much but needs to be discussed is the cuts that happen in this, any savings that happen, only happen by reducing the amount that's paid out to physicians. I'm hearing doctor after doctor, physician after physician saying, I can no longer take any new Medicare patients. I have to limit the number of Medicare patients that I have. So what good is it for someone to have Medicare when they have no doctor who will be able to see them? That is limiting access. It is limiting care. We need to turn it around. We need to do the right thing and fix Medicare for our seniors, for our future. That is the work that ought to be done. This was the wrong direction. I also think there is an important step that we take this week, and that is is addressing the real problem of lawsuit abuse and the high cost that is inflicted because of lawsuit abuse against doctors and against hospitals, and the amount of defensive medicine that goes in and how we all pay a price for that. It drives up our cost of care that we can have and that our seniors can have. Let's talk about that. Let's address that. Let's do all that we can to address the real problem of health care, and that's the cost of health care. Make sure that the patient can still see the doctor that they want to see and not have a board of bureaucrats determining what kind of care they can receive. This is what we can do if we come together and work together to fix Medicare. I hand it over to Mike Kelly. Thank you.
Well, it's great to see you all, and this certainly is a special week in Washington. I'm fortunate in that I have a group of senior advisors back home in Northwest Pennsylvania. Those are the people that I talk to every day. And those are the people that really we're talking about here today, and we're talking about doing something to them that they didn't envision and they quite don't understand. And so as we sit here this week and we watch the cherry blossoms, I'm told they're going to peak, I think, Wednesday, and then they'll start to decline. Well, we also have a group of citizens out there that have peaked, and now they're in their decline. And my mother-in-law, who's 86, is here. Janice Larrick is here, and her husband, Harold Larrick, is here. She's 86. Harold's 88. Big Tom Bernatowski, who I see every morning back home, have a cup of coffee with him, and Gene Tennis. These guys are both veterans of the wars. They paid their dues, and they know they did everything they were asked to do. They paid the price. They played by the rules. But they're trying to understand why now. Why at this time in their life? Why are they being robbed of the most important thing our seniors should have? And that's peace of mind. After you've worked your whole life and you think you've paid into a program, you think, you know what? I'm pretty safe now. I'm coasting. I'm getting towards the end. But I'm going to be taken care of by the government because I've always paid into this program. Well, let me tell you, they're starting to find out what everybody else is finding out. Not just Republicans, by the way, but there's Democrats that are saying, maybe we should have read it. Maybe we should have looked at what was coming. This IPAB, what is that exactly? What, an independent payment board? They don't answer to anybody? Not elected, but appointed? Don't answer to Congress or to the electorate? Can pretty much do anything they want to do? Now, we already know that Medicare under its current model is not going to last. All we're trying to do is fix it. That's all we're trying to do, fix it. Keep that promise to the most vulnerable part of our population, our seniors who have worked the hardest, fought the most, done everything they could to preserve this great country. And now at this late date, we're going to penalize them? No, not on our watch, not in our time, not now, not in the United States. We will repeal this. And we'll have people on the other side who voted for it, but now we'll say, you know what? Probably should have read it. Probably shouldn't have listened to Ms. Pelosi. Probably should have read it first. Probably should have tried to understand what it was going to do to those people who I represent. And we're going to fix it. We're going to look at these medical malpractice suits and say, isn't it a little bit crazy where we're going with this and how it's directing people to make decisions they go into the future. You know what? I'm not going to be able to handle Medicare patients. And you know what these people are telling their sons and daughters? Maybe this isn't the right profession to you go into either. And folks, we're at a really pivotal point in our history right now where we have to take a look at what government's done to hurt its citizens. This program has hurt them deeply, and we need to repeal it right now. So I thank you for being with us, and I thank my colleagues. Dr. Harris, you're going to speak on this issue also. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The Independent Payment Advisory Board was devised for only one method and one method only. It was basically to restrict benefits to Medicare beneficiaries and therefore reduce the cost of Medicare so that money could be spent on the rest of the Affordable Care Act. But only in Washington could you design a system that would use 15 unelected people, by law, a minority of them being health care practitioners, by law, none of that minority being active practitioners, to actually decide how health care is going to be delivered to our seniors. That's the opposite of what our seniors want. As Dr. Desjarlais said, our seniors want that decision about health care to be made between a patient and their physician. That's it. No one looking over that shoulder, no one deciding whether in that individual case that's appropriate care or not. As Representative Elmer said, this is going to be coupled with tort reform, and it's about time. I was an obstetric anesthesiologist before I came to Congress, spent 30 years on the labor and delivery suite, and the change was dramatic, all driven by the tort crisis in the United States, where there were no more senior obstetricians. They all left the practice of obstetrics. All the groups were 8 or 9 obstetricians, so a woman going for care didn't develop a relationship with a single obstetrician, but a large group. And finally, the cesarean section rate in the country went up to close to 40%, all as a result of the lack of tort reform. So it's about time we take that up in Congress. We sent that bill over to the Senate a year ago, and the Senate, in its usual course of inaction, took no action. Well, this time when we send that bill over, they'll be forced to at least consider tort reform so that our citizens can have access to obstetrics and neurosurgery in parts of the country where they don't have access to that right now. Thank you.
I would like to open it up for questions.
So the law is broadly unpopular, but Democrats say that as an abstract concept it's unpopular, that the individual benefits are unpopular on their own terms. Are you concerned that if you actually were able to repeal it, that the people receiving those benefits would then kind of be awakened and oppose your efforts?
When you said the law, you're talking about the broader law, not just the IPAB part of it? Well, I would say just the opposite. If you leave IPAB in place, you are not changing the way Medicare works. You are not changing the rules so that you squeeze more value and reduce cost. All you are doing is cutting cost in a Medicare system as it is currently constituted, which, by definition, will mean less services provided to people, fewer doctors willing to take Medicare patients. So I think just the opposite is true. Let me read this to you. Yesterday, there was a guy that's called a senior Medicare patrol officer in Arkansas, in my district.
On this
he was
vote,
at a senior center.
The yeas are 371, the nays are 0, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. The House will be in order.
Next. Yeah, we got a communication there. Yep, and what am I going to say?
The House will be in order. Members, please take your conversation to the back of the floor.
Once you say that, then you hand that paper.
The House will be in order. The Chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir. I write to let you know that I have submitted the attached letter to the Governor of Washington to tender my resignation from the United States House of Representatives effective at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, March 20th, 2012. It has been a high honor to serve in the People's House. I have fervent hopes that in the years to come the House will serve to continue America's efforts to always bend the arc of the moral universe towards justice. Very truly yours, Jay Inslee, Member of Congress.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Michigan rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that my name be removed as a co-sponsor on H.R. 2920.
Without objection. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina rise?
Mr. Speaker, I would like to request by unanimous consent that I be removed as a co-sponsor from HRES 229.
So, without objection, so ordered. The House will be in order. The chair is prepared to entertain 1-minute requests. For what purpose does the gentleman from Michigan rise?
Mr. Speaker, I request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
To my colleagues,
The gentleman is correct. The House will be in order.
Mr. Speaker, even though he is very much alive, I rise this evening to celebrate the inspired life and contributions of the Reverend Dr. Charles Adams, who on April 30th of this year will be completing his teaching at the Harvard Divinity School, where he has for years conducted these important courses that he has taught. Earlier, he was the head of the largest NAACP chapter in the nation, the Detroit chapter. And he has inspired countless numbers of people on this planet to a greater faith and the necessity to follow up with the work to produce the change, the compassion that in some ways, sometimes large and other times small, can dispense hope in a community, a state, a nation, and sometimes even a world. I ask consent to submit the remainder of my statement.
Without objection.
Thank you.
Are there further 1-minute requests? Gentleman from Texas. Without objection. Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, it seems the administration may open up the emergency strategic petroleum reserves under the economic theory that more supply will lower the price of oil and gasoline. If the President's theory of supply is correct, then why not allow more oil shale leasing in the West? And why not say yes to more oil and gas lease sales in the Gulf of Mexico? And why not say yes to the Keystone Pipeline? And why not remove the slow permitting processes? If it wasn't for more oil production on non-government lands, the situation of supply would even be worse. The administration wants to save us from the high cost of gasoline by increasing supply. I agree. So I've introduced legislation that would require the administration to do all of the above before it can tap into the SPR. Let's increase our energy supply and give Americans some relief at the pump. We don't need a temporary fix in supply. We need a long-term energy supply solution. And that's just the way it is.
Yields back. Are there any other 1-minute requests? Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to announce that I am going to co-sponsor H.R. 4169, the Sudan Security, Peace, and Accountability Act. I'm doing this, Mr. Speaker, because it has been called to our attention that there are atrocities still taking place in Sudan. People are suffering, people are dying, and there is a possibility of a humanitarian crisis developing. This bill will allow sanctions to be imposed. I would also like to thank Mr. Clooney, Mr. George Clooney, and his father for calling these atrocities to our attention. I hope to say more about this in the days to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. Are there any further 1-minute requests? The gentleman from Florida. Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ahead of Pope Benedict XVI's visit to Cuba next week, Cuban authorities detained about 70 members of the dissident group Ladies in White over the weekend, including 36 on Sunday morning as they attempted to attend Mass. The Ladies in White demonstrate peacefully in solidarity with their loved ones who were jailed during the Black Spring government crackdown 9 years ago. In recent days, the non-violent efforts of the Ladies in White have been met with the beatings and detentions that have become synonymous with the Castro tyrants. Given that this is occurring on the eve of the Pope's visit, these events are disgraceful and should be universally condemned. Hopefully, during his visit to Cuba next month, Pope Benedict will meet with dissident leaders like the Ladies in White and Dr. Oscar Elias Bisset, who has publicly called on the Pope to engage them. By doing so, Pope Benedict will give voice to those who long for freedom and speak out in the face of brutal repercussions, and he will give hope to those who risk their lives so that one day Cuba may be free. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yields back. Are there any further one-minute requests? Gentlelady from Texas.
I thank the Speaker. Speaker, how much longer can we continue to watch the bloodshed and slaughter in Syria without demanding the United Nations collaborative action, providing those rebels, along with states out of the Arab League, the weapons that they need? We know that there is a hesitation to begin air attacks. But when you see the slaughter, the loss of life of women and children, it is outrageous. We learned today that Russia joins the Red Cross in calling for a daily truce in Syria for humanitarian needs. That's not enough. And Russia and China should stop their blocking of the United Nations and the Security Council for providing some aid to save the lives of innocent women and children. This is a humanitarian crisis, and it calls for quick response. Yes, the Red Cross and humanitarian aid should be allowed in, but we should provide for those who are trying to defend themselves against oppression the kind of support on the ground that's necessary. Where is the Arab League? Where is the collaborative effort of the United Nations? Where is the outcry for the bloodshed in Syria? I yield back.
Yields back. Are there any further one-minute requests?
There is one.
The gentleman from Indiana.
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute. Right.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I listened to my good friend Congressman Poe from Texas a few minutes ago, and I was thinking, I wonder if the President at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, if he's in town and not campaigning someplace, I wonder if he's paying any attention. If I had a chance, and I know I can't address the President from the well, but if I could address the President from the well, I'd say, Mr. President, the people of this country are hurting. Inflation is taking off on all kinds of food products and anything else that's being transported by truck. And it's because of the energy costs. Gasoline is at almost an all-time high, and you, Mr. President, should be paying attention to it. We ought to be drilling off the continental shelf and in the Anwar and in the Gulf of Mexico, and we ought to be fracking, and we ought to be also using coal oil shale. But, Mr. President, you're not doing any of those things, and the people are suffering. Stay home. Pay attention, Mr. President. It's your job. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Are there any further requests? The chair lays before the House the following personal requests.
Leaves of absence requested for Mr. Backus of Alabama for today, Mr. Bishop of Georgia for today, Mrs. Bono Mack of California for today through Wednesday, March the 21st, Mr. Davis of Illinois for today and tomorrow, Mr. Heinrich of New Mexico for today, Mr. Honda of California for today, and Mr. Mario of Pennsylvania for today.
Without objection, the requests are granted. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 5, 2011, The gentlelady from the Virgin Islands, Ms. Christensen, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And tonight, the Congressional Black Caucus again thanks the Democratic leader for allowing us to have this hour to talk about something very important. As we approach the second anniversary of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, a truly landmark law that's bringing about health reforms that are helping millions of Americans not only save money, but have healthier lives. And so we want to review some of those facts this evening, not the myths, not the misrepresentations about this great law, the facts. There's so much that's being spread that's just flat out wrong, wrong about the facts, and wrong to tell our fellow Americans things that are just not true about this law. And so at this time, I'd like to begin yielding to some of my colleagues, and I'll begin by yielding such time as she might consume to the gentlelady from Cleveland, Ohio, Congresswoman Marcia Fudge.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Representative Christensen for continuing to host this hour. Thank you very much for your leadership. Mr. Speaker, for far too long, hard-working Americans have paid the price for policies that handed free rein to insurance companies and put barriers between patients and their doctors. We all want to be in charge of our own care, and it's not too much to ask. The Affordable Care Act forces insurance companies to be responsible, prohibiting them from dropping your coverage if you get sick or billing you into bankruptcy because of an annual or lifetime limit. For the first time under federal law, insurance companies are required to publicly justify their actions if they want to raise rates by 10% or more. The law also bans insurance companies from imposing lifetime dollar limits on health benefits, freeing cancer patients and individuals suffering from other chronic diseases from worrying about going without treatment. And the law ensures that everyone pays their fair share and gets affordable insurance. Because when people without insurance get sick, the costs get passed down to the rest of us. And despite other claims, you can keep the coverage you have if you want it. Or if you like your plan, you don't have to keep it. You can pick an affordable insurance option so you can take responsibility for your health and your family's health. Having everyone take responsibility for their own care started as a Republican idea, but unfortunately, they've abandoned it in an effort to dismantle the new health care law. We know that the American people strongly support what the new health care law does, even though Republican rhetoric has encouraged many not to support the law. When you ask about specific provisions, you get a much clearer picture. According to a poll done by the Kaiser Family Foundation, 85% of people support the discount seniors will get in prescription drugs, which has begun. 79% support subsidies to help low and moderate income people buy insurance, which is scheduled to start in 2014. 78% support tax credits to small businesses to offer coverage to workers. The credits are available starting this year. 71% of people support prohibiting insurance from denying coverage to people with pre-existing conditions, a provision that goes into effect in 2014. 66% support making insurers meet a threshold of spending on actual medical care as opposed to administrative costs and profit. This provision goes into effect this year. 65% support the law's provision making some preventive care services free to Medicare beneficiaries. It's now in effect. I won't keep going, but I could, Mr. Speaker. Americans support the provisions of the Affordable Care Act because it gives them the reins. It gives them the ability to choose, not the insurance companies. Americans overwhelmingly agreed that the health care system we had before was broken. The Affordable Care Act is already helping millions of Americans as well as small businesses. 105 million Americans have had the lifetime limit on their coverage eliminated. 17 million children who have pre-existing conditions can no longer be denied coverage by insurers. 2.5 million additional young adults now have health insurance through their parents. 360,000 small employers use the Small Business Health Care Tax Credit to help them afford health insurance for 2 million workers in 2011. $2.1 billion is the amount that seniors in the donut hole have already saved on their prescription drugs. That's an average of $604 per senior. Another fundamental element of the law is the support it provides to community health centers. The Affordable Care Act increases the funding available to 179 existing community health centers in Ohio alone. Health centers in Ohio have received over $53 million to create new health center sites in medically underserved areas and enable health centers to increase the number of patients served. The funds can be used to expand preventive and primary health care services, and for so many Ohioans, including my constituents, community health centers are absolutely vital. For many reasons, this law will improve care and make Americans more healthy. It helps us keep costs under control, encourages prevention, and lets American families focus on things other than whether they will be able to get the type of care they need or go bankrupt. This bill saves lives. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Congressman Fudge, and thank you for reminding us that such a large percentage of Americans really, once they know what's in the bill, what's being provided, support the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. Thank you. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to insert into the record a statement from the Honorable Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, and to ask that all members may have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and add extraneous material on the subject of this special order, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection, and the lady's first request will be covered by general leave.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to yield such time as she might consume to the Congresswoman, the gentlelady from Texas, who often joins Congresswoman Fudge and myself on these special orders, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
I thank the gentlelady for her kindness. As a member of the Congressional Black Caucus and the co-chair and founder of the Congressional Children's Caucus and a member of the Health Care Task Force, it is now time to commemorate, even to celebrate, 2 years of the Affordable Care Act, and particularly coming from an area that embraces the Texas Medical Center, where so much research has benefited from the passage of the Affordable Care Act and the added commitment to research for any number of diseases that we are still confronted with. So I am baffled by the opposition to this bill and the usage that it has seemingly come upon during the Republican presidential debates. For in actuality, if they would read the bill and look at its basic premises, they would take up the cause of saying that it is a very important element of making Americans more healthy. And I thank the gentlelady from the Virgin Islands for her leadership on health care issues and, of course, for leading this special order, and as well, chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus for making sure that we are focused on how this impacts our community. Children, in particular, won't lose their coverage just because they were born with pre-existing conditions like asthma, and American families are seeing how reform is saving lives and saving money. Medicare is now stronger for seniors, and women can now get life-saving mammograms at no extra cost. In eliminating racial and ethnic health disparities, which we worked on continuously, and as a caucus submitted this language to the Affordable Care Act, we find that it would have reduced direct medical care expenditures by $229.4 billion for the years 2003 to 2006. This bill was passed after that, and even though all the language that the CBC wanted to include in that bill was not included, large steps were made in terms of the elements of that bill. This bill protects and provides the fact that if you have an illness that is chronic, you do not have lifetime caps. 86 million Americans receive free preventative care. That means they got life-saving cancer screenings like mammograms and colonoscopies. And soon women can have their contraceptive covered without paying a copay or deductible. They are living healthier lives. It is evidenced, unfortunately, that years have shown that infant mortality rates for mothers aged 20 plus by race, ethnicity, and education make a difference. Less than high school, it is high among all populations, including white women. High school, it is equally almost high. 13.4 African Americans per 1,000 births, 9.2 for American Indian per 1,000 births, 6.5 of white non-Hispanic, 5.6 of Asian Pacific Islander, and 5.3 for Hispanic. It is shameful that we lose our newborn because of lack of health care and education. The Affordable Care Act will change that because they will create greater opportunity for access to health care. 180 million are now protected against the worst insurance abuses like denying health care to the sick, excessive premium increases, and lifetime caps. An additional 2.5 million young adults now have insurance. That's because the Affordable Care Act allows families, parents, to keep their children on their insurance until age 26. I have personally spoken to families who have said, thank you, and lives have been saved. What is the Affordable Care Act? It is saving lives. 47 million Americans now benefit from a stronger Medicare program. The solvency of the program has been extended by 8 years, and new prescription drug discounts have saved 3.6 million with Medicare, an average of $600, and seniors understand that in years to come, just a few years, the donut hole will be completely closed. The worst Medicare reform we ever saw, and it was not reform, it was actually a blight on Medicare to have something called the prescription drug Part D with a big fat donut hole, which most seniors fell in and almost drowned. Thank goodness we are ending that aspect of it. But let me tell you why it's important to have the Affordable Care Act. Coming from the state that I do, and having experienced this past week over the last 10 days as we've been fighting this and it's galvanizing as Planned Parenthood is going around the state of Texas, and as we watch various state laws infringe upon women's health care and access to health care, if you can imagine a sonogram that forces a woman to look at a sonogram along with her physician, this should be a prayerful and private moment where laws do not intrude on a private decision. Or the law that says that you have to tell your employer what reason you're using contraception for. These are outrageous aspects. Or Planned Parenthood affiliates that have nothing to do with abortion in the state of Texas now are eliminated from receiving precious Medicaid dollars in the state of Texas that has the highest number of uninsured, mostly among young women and single women with children, are denying them access to health care because they are claiming that affiliates are performing abortions. They know that is not true. We're going to fight it. We're going to fight it, and we're going to fight it. And one of the reasons is because the Affordable Care Act provides equal opportunity to access health care. It is shameful that the state of Texas is turning away some $30 to $40 million to help women have access to health care. It is shameful that they've already cut $76.9 million. So I want to thank Representative Garnett Coleman, Representative Sylvester Turner, Representative Alma Allen, Representative Carol Alvarado, and a number of others who recognize that the state should take a different position and are working with me to turn the clock forward and not backwards in terms of health care for women in the state of Texas. We need all the help we can get. And the Affordable Care Act, a reasoned response to good health care, is providing that legitimate law to say that all Americans deserve access to good health care. For my district, it improves employer-based coverage for 279,000 residents. That is the 18th Congressional District in the state of Texas. Provides credits to help pay for coverage for up to 186,000 households. Improves Medicare for 70,000 beneficiaries, seniors, including closing the prescription drug donut hole for 5,300 seniors. Allows 6,600 small businesses to obtain affordable health care. If we say we care about small businesses, I hear that all the time. then why are you condemning the Affordable Care Act that helps small businesses, provides tax credits to help reduce health care insurance for up to 14,600 small businesses in the 18th Congressional District in Texas? Multiply that by 435 districts. There are millions of small businesses being helped. Provide coverage for 187,000 uninsured residents. Remember, I said Texas is the state with the highest number of uninsured persons without health care. Protects up to 500 families from bankruptcy due to unaffordable health care costs. And when we were dealing with bankruptcy in the Judiciary Committee, one of the single most difficult elements of bankruptcy was catastrophic illnesses. Better health care coverage for the uninsured. For the insured, approximately 41% of the district population, 279,000, will receive coverage from their employer. Many other aspects of what this insurance reform, Affordable Care Act, good health care does for Americans. And so I am happy to celebrate the Affordable Care Act because I believe that lives have been saved. Children with diabetes, children with pre-existing diseases that would not have accessed health care other than the emergency room now can get good coverage and good care. Finally, I would say something that we collectively supported that has been an asset. In my congressional district, a health clinic that received millions of dollars through the stimulus pursuant to our commitment to community health clinics now has 20 patient rooms, increased jobs and providing good health care in that community. Community health clinics have become first-line responders to providing access to all people. So I thank the gentlelady for allowing me to share these thoughts, but in particular, I thank her for helping me acknowledge the fight we have in Texas, where women's access to health care foolishly has been denied and incorrectly, I believe, labeling Planned Parenthood and its affiliates, in particular the affiliates, who have over the years, through the Bush administration, when President Bush was in office, this bill was passed in the state of Texas, but the affiliates were allowed to continue to give good health care, and no question was ever raised that they were mixing federal dollars in their clinics that might have provided for abortions. It is against the law. Why we are denying women in the state of Texas their health care, their lifeline, baffles all of us, but we're going to fight to the end and look forward to working with Health and Human Services to ensure that we can fight for good health care for all Americans and the women of the state of Texas. I yield back. I thank the gentlelady.
Thank you, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and certainly we know that Planned Parenthood has always followed the law. And in this Women's History Month, thank you for raising the issue of the unfair treatment of women by some of the laws, like the one in Texas, the one in Virginia, and also legislation that has been attempted to be passed in the Congress of the United States. We're also joined this evening by a congressman from Texas, the Congressman Al Green, who often joins us here. We're representing all of the 43 members of the Congressional Black Caucus just who know how important this law is to our communities and really to communities across this country. So we thank you for joining us, and I yield such time as you might consume.
Thank you, Dr. Christensen, and I especially thank you for chairing the Healthcare Task Force and for the outstanding job that you've done through the years. You have shown a great deal of dedication to health care for all, and I believe that those who write history will be exceedingly kind to you when they record how you fought so that every person could have health care as a matter of right as opposed to as a matter of wealth. You have done your best to make sure health care doesn't become wealth care. I'd also like to thank my colleague Sheila Jackson Lee, who spoke just ahead of me, and you, for the hard work that she is doing across the length and breadth of this country to help us with these issues concerning health care for all as well. The Affordable Care Act is called the Affordable Care Act for a reason. In 2009, when we were embarking upon this transformation in health care, we were spending about $2.5 trillion per year on health care. $2.5 trillion. $2.5 trillion is a huge number. It is very difficult to grasp $2.5 trillion. $2.5 trillion is about $79,000 per second. That's what we were spending in '09. That was 17.6% of GDP. $79,000 plus per second. And it was projected in '09 that in 2018 we would be spending $4.4 trillion per second. Big number, $4.4 trillion. How much is it really? That's $179,000 per second, which equates to about 20.3% of GDP. $179,000 per second. We needed the Affordable Care Act. In the state of Texas, we were spending huge amounts of money because we had 6 million people who were uninsured. 1.1 million in my county, Harris County, uninsured. 20% of the state's children were uninsured. 2009. We needed the Affordable Care Act. There is a reason why it's called the Affordable Care Act. Because upon passing it, it's projected still that it will, and this is per CBO, that it will save $1 trillion plus over a 20-year period. This bill, this legislation, reduces the cost of care, and it was something that had to be done. But equally as important as reducing the cost of care, it spreads health care. About 50 million people who but for this bill probably would not receive some health care. I do believe that it's important that we not have 45,000 people per year die because they don't have insurance. That's a lot of folk to lose their lives. We were losing about one person every 12 minutes, I believe. This is an important piece of legislation to save lives. It saves money. But equally as important as saving money, in my world, more important is the fact that it saves lives. It saves the lives of children. It will cause children to have the opportunity to stay on the insurance of their parents until they are 26 years of age. It closes the donut hole for senior citizens with their pharmaceuticals. We had a system that allowed you to pay a copay and a premium up to a certain point, and then you had to pay all of the costs of your health care, and then at another point you would again receive some additional assistance. This bill closes that donut hole for those who are in the twilight of life, when you need pharmaceuticals the most. And by the way, the insurance companies were not eager to take on persons in the twilight of life. When there is much to be spent on health care, they don't go out looking for people to insure in the twilight of life. This bill covers people to make sure they get pharmaceuticals in the twilight of life. But it does something special for women. It ends the discrimination that exists against women who get the same coverage, the same insurance that men get, but pay more because of their gender. There really is a gender bias in the insurance industry, and women pay more for similar coverage. This bill ends this. Women ought not be required to pay more because they are women. This bill ends it. It also helps us with persons in need of preventive care. And at some point in life, we all need preventive care, so theoretically, I suppose it helps everyone. But preventive care is very important. Preventive care can hold down the cost of health care. If you can treat and prevent an illness, you don't pay that inordinate amount of money that you have to pay once the person has the illness and has to receive medical attention. One such area of preventive care has to do with contraception. And this is an adult conversation. And I want adults to know that men can receive their contraceptives in their neighborhoods, bus stops, truck stops. They can receive contraceptives. It is easy for men to acquire contraceptives. If men can get them in their neighborhoods, women should be able to get them at Planned Parenthood. There is no reason why men should have easy access and women be denied access. These are matters for families to consider and individuals to make choices about. And I think that women ought to be able to make the same choices that men can make when it comes to contraception. I would add, as I close, that this bill is going to make a difference in the lives of a lot of people. And what I regret is that many people really don't understand the positive impact that it will have on them. And it's very unfortunate because there are many people who will benefit from this bill, but who do not understand how it will have a positive impact on their lives. It is unfortunate that we sometimes don't know as much about a thing as we should so that we can speak about it in terms of knowledge that we have as opposed to what we have heard. Read the Affordable Care Act, look at the summaries of it, but no one denies that it allows you to keep your child on your health insurance until your child is 26 years of age. No one denies that it is closing the donut hole for senior citizens as it relates to their pharmaceuticals. No one denies that it will allow preventive care to take place such that people can receive treatment that will prevent them from having to go to the hospital, to give them an opportunity to remain healthy and not have to treat an unhealthy person. No one denies that it will help keep people out of the emergency rooms. We were spending $100 billion per year in emergency rooms in '09. People were going to emergency rooms for their pharmaceuticals and their treatments that they could receive at a general practitioner's office. This bill would end this. This is a good piece of legislation that will help people in the dawn of life, when they're born with pre-existing conditions, in the twilight of life, when they're in need of special attention and treatment that the wealthy can now afford. I do believe that in this country, if we find you to be an enemy combatant, and if we should mortally wound you in the process of taking you into custody, if we should wound you, perhaps not kill you, but we wound you. When we do capture you, if we don't mortally wound you, if we don't kill you, we will give you aid and comfort. We give aid and comfort to our enemy combatants, people who are trying to kill us. We will give them aid and comfort if we wound them in battle. In this country, if you are a bank robber, and if on the way out the bank we should harm you physically, when we capture you, we will give you aid and comfort. In this country, we give aid and comfort to criminals. In this country, if you are on death row and you are on your way to meet your maker next week, if you get sick this week, we will give you aid and comfort and send you to meet your maker next week. If we can give aid and comfort to the enemy combatant, if we can give aid and comfort to the criminal, if we can give aid and comfort to the person who's on death row, who's going to die next week, surely we can give aid and comfort to hard-working American citizens who cannot afford health care but for the Affordable Care Act, which, by the way, mandates that every person who can afford health care acquire health care. Does not require people to buy health care who cannot afford health care. This is the richest country in the world. 1 out of every 100 persons is a millionaire. In spite of all that you hear, we still are. And in this, the richest country in the world, we cannot allow health care to become wealth care. I thank you for yielding the time, and I gladly yield back to you.
Thank you, and thank you for making those points and for making them so passionately. And I know you said that we save $1 trillion over the next 20 years, but I am